Yeah, I think work is one of the most kind of challenging areas to bring our practice. Usually just because we have such strong habit energies when we come into work. I think it can really kind of shine light on all our kind of struggles, whether that's like rushing or trying to please other people, or maybe not having the courage to speak out about what we need or what we believe. Um, I think one of the most useful pieces of advice I got was when I first arrived at Plum Village. There was a particular monk who kind of, took me under his wing a bit, and I think he probably kind of saw some of my habits in the the work periods, which I think at that time were really like a lot of rushing and a lot of striving, a lot of effort, and a lot of maybe self-criticism. And I remember one day he kind of sat me down and he said, like, never let your energy go below 30%. And at the time I thought I was kind of annoyed actually. I thought this was like the worst piece of advice ever. Never let your energy go below 30%. And my responsibility at that time in the community was to cook in the kitchen. So we'd be cooking for 100 people, sometimes 200, sometimes even 400 people. And I just thought, like, well, what am I supposed to do when my energy is like at 30%? Just like leave the kitchen and say, okay, guys, sorry, I'm can't do any more work. My energy is like dropping below 30%. Like it just didn't really make sense to me at all, like how this could possibly be applied in any way. And I think because it was so annoying, it sort of like stayed with me. And it made me kind of reflect, like, where is my energy right now? And actually, most of the time I noticed it was kind of below 50, and very often below 30, especially when I was working in the kitchen, especially when it came to like dinner time, like, 5, 10%, even less. Um, and that reflection was useful. I started to just, for the first time, just be aware of like how much energy I had, like where I was. And and from that awareness, I began making different choices. Like often when I was in the kitchen, it was below 30%. And I think when I started to realize that, and even realize when I was dropping even lower, I realized I needed to start being really careful. So I would actually, try and bring like more mindful energy in because I could tell like, yeah, I'm starting to struggle. So like could I like go a bit more slowly, go a bit more mindfully as I did the things that I needed to do. And even more difficultly for me, um, sometimes actually just taking a 5 minute break. And that was a real struggle for me at that point because I felt like I was letting my team down. I felt like a real pressure to keep going, but just to like almost force myself initially to just like, walk slowly to the tea area, to like just mindfully make myself a cup of tea, to like look at a tree. And then, because I couldn't really do it for that long, I'd like come back. It'd also make me a little bit aware, like after the shift when my energy was like really low, it's like, what do I really need to kind of rest? And even like, when I knew okay, I've got this time in the kitchen coming up. It's like, what can I do in advance to kind of take care of my energy? If I realize, okay, I'm only at like 60, I'm only at 50, and I've got a whole day ahead of me. It's like, what actually is going to be really useful for me right now in just like kind of gathering myself, and very often like that was mindfulness. And I think slowly I just learned through that awareness of my energy, like how to resource myself a little bit better and how to care for myself a little bit better. Um, and especially like bringing the that kind of mindfulness in. So like now I think that really kind of has like kind of gone into my bones. It really kind of informs how I live. Like I actually consciously try to underschedule myself. So I've always got a little bit of a buffer. So if something unexpected does come up, I can still feel resourced and meet that. Like and realizing that's just really important to me. Like I really value the work that I can give, but I also really value like having enough well-being to kind of enjoy my life and feel spacious and feel peaceful and grounded. Um, yeah, and I will do things like I think it's a little bit more challenging or difficult when it's a lot of computer work and um, relational work. Like in some ways, like chopping the carrots or washing the salad was a bit easier. But I do try like Terry has. I have a little bell that goes every 15 minutes. So, when I am kind of feeling a bit depleted and I've got a lot of computer work, I'll put that on just to remind myself to pause and breathe and yeah, especially when I start to feel rushed, start to feel pressure, um, I will actually consciously give myself a break, and not kind of give in to that feeling of like forward momentum that I know can so easily carry me away. And I think I just wanted to also say that I think like Lizzie was saying, a real big part of like joy in work for me or challenge in work for me is the quality of the relationships with the people around me. So I do also really try and prioritize that, which again is a struggle for me. I think my habit energy is very much to be efficient and get things done. Um, and I remember living in Plum Village, like we would, often have a lot of time that for me felt a bit like wasted initially, where we would just sit and have a cup of tea together or a chat. But now I realize it's like a real foundational building block of like creating those relationships, creating that foundation of connection, so everything else goes easier. And I know a lot of you are kind of in the Plum Village practice, so you'll know about flower watering as a formal practice. But I would also encourage you to maybe think about that as an informal practice. Like throughout the day, how can we kind of reach out and just express our appreciation for the people that we're working with as a kind of matter of course? Can we notice when those little frictions happen, like the small ones, and practice expressing our regret and just, repairing those miscommunications, even when they're quite small? And I think also, you know, when it's safe and, maybe we need to find an appropriate way to do that depending on our work, expressing when we're having difficulties and challenges, when we're not at our best, so other people actually can be aware of that and support us. I feel like, even in a non-Sangha environment, um, we always kind of need to be Sangha building to support ourselves and maybe just finding who are our allies, who are the people who have like certain qualities. They don't need to be everything, but who are the people who have certain qualities that can support us, that we can find kind of alliances around that can just give us that kind of relational support and safety at work, I think. And that can also bring more joy for me when I have that. So I think that's all I have time for. Uh, so thank you for listening. And I'll pass to Katie, I guess, is going next.
Thank you, Ethan and Lizu, for your wisdom. And to start by saying, yeah, I completely agree with everything that's said before. There are some real gems of wisdom there. So now I have to try and think of something different to say because I would agree with all that has been said before. Um, so similarly for me, I try not to see work and practice as two separate things. um, my work obviously brings all sorts of challenges. You can't work in a team without there being challenges, whether that team is family or friends or really life. We should all be pulling in the same direction, but there are all sorts of conflicts that inevitably arise, both small and large. And so bringing the practice to every aspect of life is how I've brought my practice into my work life. The most basic practice is awareness of body. So releasing tension. So I'm aware while I'm speaking to you that I'm obviously a little bit nervous, and therefore can I release the tension in my body so that I can listen deeply and think about what to say. And that's something that I bring to every aspect of life. One of my habit energies around work is to easily feel overwhelmed. There's a lot to do. I work for a company and partly I'm freelance, so there's quite a lot of juggling around. And one thing that I noticed is that if I open my laptop and I'm holding tension in my body and my mind is thinking, am I going to get all of this done? And there's a negative inner talk, then my day is going to be a struggle and my energy is going to run out very quickly. So, can I be aware of what's going on for myself? And can I take care of that? So, can I sit at the laptop and actually think, right, before I do anything, I'm just going to release the tension in my body. I'm going to release the tension in my mind. Can I ground myself? Am I here? Have I got everything that I need? Do I have a nice cup of tea with me? And now begin the day one thing at a time. So, as Ethan was saying, it's the um, relaxing into my day rather than rushing through the day. And that really changes both my perception of the day and the actions that I take, of course. I would also really reiterate everything that Ethan said about, and Lizu said about mindful listening. I think that's been a real game changer for me, and also the beginning a new practice. So just as Ethan was saying, it's the flower watering, but also for me, being brave enough to say what I think. So I'm the kind of person that doesn't like conflict, and self-criticism has been a running theme of my life, and feeling insecure about things. And so the mindful practice of self-compassion has been an absolute game changer. And I thought that self compassion initially was all about being kind to myself, and obviously that's the foundation of it. But the interesting side effect is that it's made me more confident, because a big part of self compassion, where it differs from self esteem, is all about how am I doing compared to everyone else? Am I doing well? Self compassion means, can I be kind to myself when I fail? Can I be kind to myself when I make mistakes, as well as when things are going well? And learning to be kind to myself when I make mistakes and softening that inner critic has been a surprisingly empowering practice, because now that I'm less frightened of making mistakes, I'm more likely to express my view and I don't get so hurt when it's knocked back. And I also find that I can practice non attachment to views more effectively now that I'm kinder to myself, because it doesn't feel like a failure to admit that I don't know. And also to go into every conversation with Ty's wonderful phrase in the back of my mind of, you are partially right. And for someone who is a bit of a perfectionist as well, living with you are partially right has been really helpful, because it means that I don't have to know all the answers, and I don't have to be perfect, and I don't have to be the one that saves a situation. But if I'm partially right, then I've got something to contribute. But the answer probably lies within, well, always actually lies within the Sangha, within the whole team, within the whole group. So, yeah, self compassion has been a huge part of it that has led me to be braver about things. And and just one example of that is, say I'm working with a researcher at City University, Jutta Tobias Mortlock, and I was brave enough to actually just email and say, I've read your research papers, I think what you're doing is amazing. Are you looking for somebody to teach your course yet? And if so, can I volunteer? And I would never have done that years ago. And she reached out to me, and I wanted to end with this, because this is the joy of working with people who practice mindfulness, is it is so noticeable, and something that I'm so grateful to the whole Plum Village community. I volunteered in the past to help on retreats, I support sanghas, and to learn how to be part of a mindful retreat organising team to be part of the Be Calm, Be Happy course leaders team, to be part of a Sangha, you know, to be one of the facilitators alongside so many others. And I offer tech support as well to the Being Peace Sangha. And that has just been the most joyous learning experience of where we meet together and everybody takes a breath, checks in with themselves. Everybody is practicing mindful listening, compassionate speech, and how to have Sangha eyes on a challenge and how to work together as a Sangha is something that I'm deeply grateful for. And that experience of working, of volunteering within Plum Village is really what informs every other aspect of my life. And being a mindfulness teacher as well, I would also say the best way to learn is to try and teach. So even if you're not a mindfulness teacher, trying to explain to somebody else what you do in your practice, that's a real game changer for me. Because, you know, friends say, well, how do you manage your anxiety? And I have to really think, oh yeah, how do I do that in detail, step after step? So even if we're not officially given the title of teachers, I think sharing our practice and encourages, certainly in my case, me to look deeply at what have I learned and how do I apply it step by step to my everyday life. And when I can't answer the question, that's when I have to look more deeply at my practice and to reach out to the Sangha for support as to how I can do things differently. So on that note, I will hand back to the Sangha and bow out with deep gratitude for your support.
Dear friends, we have one more sharing which will has been sent as a video as Jan Hempsel is up a mountain at the moment. But I was very keen to have her join this panel, and so she sent a video. So I'm going to have a go now at sharing it for you. Welcome, Jan Hempsel.
Hi, I'm Jan. I've practiced with
Terry, you need to stay unmuted so that we can hear the
a
sound.
Repeat Group Sangha in Nottingham. I've volunteered with the community since March 2022. Originally, I started off volunteering as an events coordinator assistant. And then later applied for a role working alongside our lovely treasurer, Jonathan Edwards, as his accounts assistant. So that's my background prior to applying for the position, was sort of doing some online accounts. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now, and I've also from time to time help at the facilitate with the technical support at our weekend retreats, which is a little challenging for a non-technical person, but yeah. So Terry asked me to just say something a little bit about, you know, how we bring practice into the work that we do. You know, first of all, I'd like to say that, you know, I find the work that I do with Plum Village very rewarding. I do enjoy feeling part of the community and sort of doing my little bit. And yeah, I feel that it has changed the way that I work. I think I've noticed that you know, in my email communications and, you know, in working with people within the community, sort of holding meetings, and is that everybody does interact in a different way. You know, sort of having a meeting, then we would invite the bell at a meeting, and you know, it's a beautiful way of practicing, and that, you know, people are checking in with each other to see how they how they are, and there's genuine interest in each other's well-being, and that's really beautiful. And it gives me a sense of purpose, and I just love being, feeling like I'm part of something bigger. I think, I've definitely been guilty in the past, and still can be, of overcommitting and sort of doing too much and then reaching overwhelm. I live with bipolar disorder, so it's been a recurring theme in my life. Whereas when I'm on a bit of a high, I can tend to overcommit and then struggle to actually get things done when I'm not well, so I've learned over the years, but I can't tell you how much my practice helps me manage my bipolar. I think much more than any medication ever has. And to me, sort of trying to sort of stay on this equilibrium is it's a constant battle, but I've learned to sort of set my own boundaries with work, with volunteering, but also to find lots of joy in it brings me a lot of joy in the things that I do, even when tasks are, not quite so interesting, and they can be a little bit laborious, or a few of those sorts of tasks. One that springs to mind is gift aid. So I'm sort of responsible for putting together the gift aid reports. Some of them are done automatically, really easy. Some of them are a little bit more challenging, and very manually intensive, but I do find that I try and find little pockets of joy, like totaling up the columns and working out how much money it is that we've claimed back, and that does genuinely bring me a lot of joy. So I try and give myself chunks of time to do specific bits of work that are a little bit more tedious. I do particularly love, I'm responsible for totaling up all the various different pots that we have. We have money coming in for the Being Peace Centre. I particularly love bringing together all of the donations from all the various different places, and and totaling up what the latest total is on a monthly basis. And it's been so lovely to see so many new donations come in, from all corners of the world, and the messages of support that come with those. So yeah, that's brought me a lot of joy, and it does create more work, but yeah, definitely find a lot of joy in that. I think my mindfulness bell, which I always have on, definitely helps when I'm when I'm just have a huge list of things that need doing. I try and prioritize things, and just take a deep breath and do one thing at a time. And I think I've very much learnt that through working with my condition. I think that that is so important to me. My peace of mind is important to me, and that I have to be well, and if I overwork, which I can tend to do, that I know it will result in me not ending up in a very good place. So yeah, I will leave it there for now. I hope that's been helpful.